For those of you who've been watching the channel for a long time and you watch because I have farm mowing tractors, don't leave me because I still have a couple. I'm not getting rid of those last two. Those are pretty special to me, so not getting rid of all the farm mows. However, I did get rid of 6 tractors, and here's a quick look at the tractors I got rid of. So. I happened to be mowing one of the fields, and those of you who are familiar with the Northeast this year, it's been a lot of rain, so we've been really hard time getting the hay cut. What's happened is the second crop has come in behind the first crop, so it's resulted in really thick, heavy hay. So I took one of my old, my 200 with my C21 mower, FC21 mower, and usually the thing cuts beautifully, right? But this year, first thing that happened was the square key fell out on the register, so it kind of twisted on me, and then the end shoe by the grass board caught, and so I kind of made a bow and arrow out of it, but I didn't break anything. So I fixed all that, and you know, I was able to cut a little bit, but it wasn't doing a very good job. And then I was cutting another place with the same tractor, and last time I drove the tractor, the brakes were great. But so I was going up a hill, and then I was backing around to go like this again, and the brakes didn't work, and so I went lickety-split in reverse down over the hill. That wasn't really what I wanted to do. Fortunately, I was quick enough to shut the tractor off, and it stopped before I, killed myself on it. But that was just one of the things. And so the Cubs, great little tractors, but the PTO goes the wrong way. And so all these tractors, the John Deere A, the John Deere B, 3 Cubs, 2 200s, they just aren't good enough for me for what I want to use them for. And they're all okay old tractors to kind of piddle around with. But this year I really needed efficient equipment. So I sold all those tractors, and I really sold a ton of equipment that went with it. But I did keep my brother's tractor. I did keep his sickle bar mower. I kept the carryall, the disc harrow, and the plows. And with the 140, I'm keeping the cultivators and the side dresser. Everything else, actually I'll keep my spring tooth harrow, my fast hitch spring tooth harrow, but everything else I don't need it, so I'm going to send it all down the road. There's still a few things left, and I'll show you some pictures of what's left here in another video. Regardless, I really wanted another Kubota. I had a Kubota before. So I was like, I think I want a Kubota. Well, the Kubota dealer wouldn't call me back. He wouldn't call me back, and he's like the sales manager. So I'm like, well, I guess you don't want to sell me a tractor. My brother that passed away was in a class with this guy that we used to know, and it turns out he still sells tractors. Interesting, his last name was Ford. He used to sell Ford tractors when I was a kid, but now he sells John Deere's. So I got a hold of him and let him know who I was, and he remembered the family. So he's like, give me a couple weeks and I'll find you something. So I was going to buy another new tractor, but I'm going to show you what he found me for a really great deal that was literally 50% the cost of a new tractor, and he gave me a military discount on top of that. So I actually bought this John Deere tractor that's 7 years old, 6 years, a little bit over 6 years old, almost 7, for less money than I paid for my Mahindra. So exit stage right. He found me this really nice 2017 3039R, so it's 39 horsepower. It has the heavy-duty bucket on it. It's got the IH hitch. He's got a canopy on order for me. Loaded tires, they're ag tires, which is what I wanted. I kind of wanted another shuttle shift tractor, but this one's e-hydro. And once you've driven a John Deere e-hydro, I don't think there's anything comparable to it. And so I'm the first guy who will tell you that I think a lot of the John Deeres, you're paying extra for green paint. However, let me show you some of the things that really impressed me about this tractor, besides the fact that he got it for me for a heck of a really good bargain. In the coming up weeks, I am going to do a side-by-side with my Mahindra tractor, because they're about the same size, horsepower wise, and I think in usefulness. However, there's a few things about this tractor that really are impressive to me, and one of them is the quality of the 3-point hitch on this thing. Like the steel in the lower draft arms, like the way it's attached to the tractor is like night and day difference between this and the Mahindra. The drawbar is thicker. The whole rear end of the tractor just looks a lot beefier. There's 8 bolts holding the wheel center to the axle hub instead of 6, and then there's 8 bolts holding the rim to the wheel center instead of 6. So that's just one thing that I noticed really quickly. Now a lot of people are like, oh, it's got a plastic hood on it. So I've had a number of John Deere garden tractors, and I've actually had another John Deere 4000 series tractor prior to my YouTube experience, and I never had issue with the plastic on it. I know some people leave them out, and so yeah, you leave it out in the sun, in the wind and snow and rain, eventually it gets brittle. My tractors, I've always kept them in the garage, and I still have a John Deere garden tractor that's literally like, let's see, it's pushing 10, so it's 9.5, almost 10 years old. Looks like brand new, hood is solid. I don't think the durability of the plastic is as bad as people tend to want to make it out to be. I think people just justify they bought something and then they come up with reasons why they bought it. But whatever, buy whatever you want. I don't care. I can tell you that the Kubotas I had, the whole rear end here was plastic, and I broke that all off within a couple months of having it. So Kubota dashboards are plastic. I don't care. There's plastic on everything these days. So plastic aside, it's got a nice shine to it still. It's been really well taken care of. Let's take a look at a couple other things. The steel in this thing is way thicker than on the Mahindra. Like all the steel is probably like at least 1/8 of an inch thicker. Like we're talking massively thicker than what is on my Mahindra tractor. And the front end on this thing is way beefier than on the Mahindra. The hydraulic cylinders are bigger. And I did cheat here. This is what I call my poor man's hydraulics. And this was something that was reminded me of like one of my farmwell tractors. You had this little thing on it, and you could switch to the loader or the fast hitch. And I really don't use a remote very much, but when I need it, I need it. So I got this little guy right here, and what I did is I took these right here, and my loader's plugged into it, and then these right here go down to the lines that run back to the valve, and then these ones in back go to the back of the tractor, and then this little knob, you push it in or out. And so right now in is the front of the tractor, out is the rear of the tractor. So it's really simple, and I just use the regular joystick controller. So I know it's kind of, some people might say gaumy or poor man's hydraulics, but I literally need hydraulics like 3 times a year to run my sickle mower. That's it. And so John Deere quoted me $2,200 to add hydraulics to the rear of this, and I was like, I can do this way cheaper myself. I know how to do this. So there we go. So there's my hydraulics right there. Another thing that was pretty simple for me to figure out was adding an auxiliary work light right there. And it turns out that down here there's already a hot wire that was capped off on both sides, and it's connected to the dashboard to the work light switch. So when you go all the way to the right to work lights, it energizes those 2 little stubs that were capped off. And so I just fished a wire up through the roll bar and put my aux beam on there. So now I've got a rear light, and I've got another aux beam that I'm going to put on this side to face it forward, so that I'll have another light on it. You can see myself here in this thing. So the heavy duty bucket has an extra plate here, and instead of just using this right here as your cutting edge, it's got another bolt-on cutting edge with 2 sides on it underneath. And then the top here is really thick. It's like 2 inches thick instead of just a real thin, like usually it's just this on the top, like right here, but it's really thick on it. Of course, the drawback is it has the John Deere proprietary loader on it, but luckily for me, I have 2 other tractors with skid steer couplers, so I don't really see that as a problem. So we come over here, park and brake, full drive engagements, diff lock. There's your 3-point. Here's my seat. Here's my 3 ranges as opposed to 2. Turning brakes, tilt wheel, And look at this, it's even got a suspension seat on it, so I don't even know how to deal with it because it's so comfortable. Wow. Alright, and then here, so this is where it gets a little hokey, is there's just so many buttons and bells and whistles, and I don't know if you remember. Daddy never was the Cadillac kind. Song that came out back in the 90s by Confederate Railroad, that Daddy never was the Cadillac kind. Well, that's me. So I'm pretty much a, you know, whatever the basic version is of something, that's the one I go for. So this has got lots of stuff on it that I really don't need, but it just came with it. So I'll show you a couple things that I still haven't really figured out yet exactly, but pretty cool. So yeah, this does do regen, and then that little silver thing is because it has a turbocharger on it. So you've got your power takeoff here, and this right here is your auto throttle. So you set this on, and then when you push the go pedal, it revs the engine up. Then you got stall guard. I'm not really sure what this is yet. He's going to find the manual for me. I don't have one, so I just have to figure that out. The valve here is way nicer than my Mahindra. All these parts and pieces, way more quality. And then automotive style cruise control works really well. And like I said, the tilt wheel, and it's just, I don't know. I really like this tractor a lot, and I never would have considered a John Deere otherwise. It just happened to me that the Kubota guy wouldn't call me back, and then I just remembered this other guy who sells tractors for John Deere, and you know, I think it has a lot to do with who you know. I remember a long time ago somebody telling me don't go into a dealership cold. Like, always know somebody when you go in, so that helps. But I really feel like they did me right on this tractor. It only has 400 hours on it. I think the guy traded it in for a cab tractor, to be honest with you. I'm pretty sure that's what the deal was. So it's in great shape, and I'm really happy with it so far. I used it last week in the hayfield. There you go. I know you probably think I've gone mad, but I needed something in addition to the Mahindra that I have, to, because the sickle bar on one and then the tedder on the rake on the other. Because what I was doing is I was just piecing the fields this year. I would just do a little bit, and then I'd bale it, and then do a little bit and bale it. And taking the mower off, putting it back on was just not super fun. And then the rest of the year I can just leave the backhoe on the Mahindra, and then I still have a tractor to do stuff with. And of course I got the little Mahindra, which is basically just a giant garden tractor, and that's what I use that for. So anyway, just a short video today to tell you what I've been up to and what I got, and so far I'm super happy with this tractor. And like I said, stick around. I'm going to give you a side-by-side in the next couple weeks with the Mahindra, just to show you what you get when you buy something a little bit more deluxe than the Mahindra.